All right. Well, we'll go ahead and get started here. Thank you for all of you who have joined. It is 10 or a minute past the hour here, so we may have a few stragglers, but let's kickstart things here a little bit. So thank you to all of you who have taken the time out of your busy day to join today's session on how to transform customer experience and contact center operations with none other than 3CLogic's voice AI agents for ServiceNow. We have a packed session for you today, but first, just a couple quick disclosures. Some of what we might cover today could be forward-looking in nature. We simply ask that you take that under advisement as it pertains to any future discussions or decisions that you may make. As I mentioned, we have a packed agenda. We'll quickly kick off things with some introductions, introducing our guest speakers who will be leading the majority of today's discussion. We will also spend some time tackling what are some of the contact center challenges that service desks and contact center operations, support groups, and so forth may be facing these days. We also didn't want to take for granted what you do or don't know about voice AI, so we'll take a minute to help define what it is, but more importantly, why is it so relevant and important today? And we'll do so before we dive into what I'm sure all of you are most eager to see, which is a live demonstration of some use cases and examples of voice AI in action together with ServiceNow before we conclude with some key takeaways and hopefully, time allowing, some quick Q&A, which you can put if you have questions in the chat. And again, if we have time, we'll try and address a few of them live today. My name is Guillaume. I will be your host today. I run the ServiceNow practice here at 3CLogic. And with us are two guest speakers, Todd Rudd, who is our Director of Solution Engineering here at 3CLogic, and Geraldine Moronis, who is a Solution Engineer here, who will be leading today's live demonstration. And so it's great to have them both here as experts and guests, again, to help support today's discussion on voice AI and how it can optimize your contact center operations. Before I hand over things to the team, specifically Todd, I did think it'd be helpful to sort of maybe anchor today's conversation in a statistic very recent from Gartner, which interestingly enough predicts that before the end of the decade, AI agents are presumably going to autonomously resolve close to 80% of the common customer service inquiries that a lot of contact center operations support teams today are otherwise handling manually. And the goal there, of course, and the hope is that it'll eliminate the need for human intervention in most routine cases. And I do want to specify here that Gartner is referencing routine cases, common customer service inquiries. So it's those repetitive, high volume, predictable, mundane requests that we're specifically going to tackle. With that, though, I'd like to introduce Todd to really kind of kick off today's conversation, starting with, what are some of the key challenges that organizations are tackling? Todd?
Thank you, Guillaume. Good day, everyone. A quick word about me. I've been in the customer service technology space for nearly 20 years now, primarily in voice solutions, at digital as well, especially in the past dozen years or so, where the underlying technologies have really merged, or the two channels. My background and focus has really been mostly in highly integrated IVR systems that focus on self-service to reduce costs, as well as, when done right, can increase customer experience. And just a note, ever since I started in the space, the demise of the voice channel and the irrelevance of the voice channel has been predicted. And 20 years later, here we are. It is still prevalent. And I really think it's, as a human, we just want what is easy to use in the moment we're in. And there are many situations now where we just want to pick up the phone for our service. So let's talk about some of the key challenges faced by support organizations nowadays. Again, in today's world, we have so many products and services that we use, and the number of communication channels that we are able to leverage is greatly expanded. So we intrinsically feel like we have options, and we are increasingly less willing to tolerate a negative experience. We will start to look at those options if we have a negative experience. So support teams find themselves with elevated customer expectations to provide answers and help with minimum friction to the user or customer. AI is seen as the magic bullet to meet these demands, is expected to bring drastically new levels of automation and efficiency. And however, from an adoption perspective, without a clear strategy, We've all seen it. Individual groups will develop their own pet AI projects. They won't share data, they won't be integrated, they won't be aligned to a clear strategy, and the overall workflow will remain clunky, and the promise of those better experiences will not be met. Additionally, organizations are always under pressure to reduce costs. And now, at the same time as elevated customer expectations, organizations are being asked to do more with less. Of course, there's no tolerance for degraded services, even during peak demand. So again, AI is seen as the savior in terms of providing agent efficiency, cutting down their time spent on simple things, as well as in other activities within the organization, such as helping developing training materials or providing automation in the onboarding process, et cetera. AI does indeed hold a lot of promise, but striking the right balance between AI-delivered service and human intelligence is hard. Users will embrace technology and self-service when it is easy to use and an experience that we trust is understanding what I'm trying to do. But for complex issues, we want human help most often, even currently. So the balance that needs to be attained is, how do you define what a complex issue is? And what do you trust to the AI versus you have to pull in humans? And it varies by organization.
Yeah, so I agree with all those challenges, Todd. We didn't want to take for granted, given today's topic, that our audience has a complete or, in-depth understanding and definition of what is voice AI. So, now that you've covered the challenges, walk us through, in your own words, what is voice AI?
Sure. Well, these are not my own words, but some of it I think really resonates. So, intrinsically at a simplistic level, enabling conversational systems on the voice channel with AI. But the three words here that stick to me to illustrate the power of voice AI is natural and free-flowing, and we'll get a lot more into the details of why that matters. Everyone is familiar with a traditional IVR system of the press 1 for this and press 2 for that variety. They actually paid for my kids' college, so I'm not going to disparage them. But they have a very structured flow, and when programmed to do the job, they're able to do it very well. Even the natural language understanding solutions that really started in maturing in the late 2010s, they do use AI to interpret spoken input, determine an intent, and the response to give, but they are still deterministic in nature. They have specific programming. Every path is predefined along a fixed and rule-based workflow. So this in and of itself is not a bad thing. As I said, they can be very effective for straightforward self-service tasks like basic call routing, or even integrated to provide solutions like checking an account balance. As long as they've been programmed to do that service, they can. But lacking that specific programming, a human is going to be required most often. So if we take an open-ended question, like my internet is not working, traditionally that's going to require a long and complex menu structure. And the prompts will be confusing. They're going to use language that I may not understand, and I will end up going down paths and looping back, and overall just getting frustrated. And it's not going to take too long for me to start hitting zero or screaming agent because I need to talk to someone. Now, if I'm describing that same problem to a human, there will be a dialogue, questions and answers that build on each other. I'll be able to provide additional info that may or may not be relevant, but the human will be able to pull that information and conduct the conversation to let the information in a way that is understandable to me and is required to further triage this request that I have. So as we'll see today, voice AI enables a more free-flowing conversation, able to apply ongoing contextual understanding and to refine that open-ended question through dialogue.
Gotcha. Okay, so you've given us a 10,000-foot view definition of voice AI. If you were to break it down into some of its components, right, help our audience kind of understand sort of the makeup of voice AI and some of the things that maybe take into consideration when you think of how it might apply to you.
Sure. So as opposed to the deterministic flow that I just described as traditional, voice AI is going to employ large language models and Gen AI to understand and generate human language. And the key to these approaches is they are probabilistic in nature. They've been trained on vast amounts of textual content. to create models for the connections between words and human speech. So when a spoken input is received, it is able to probabilistically match that pattern to a pattern in its model. And very importantly, all inputs of the entire conversation to that point are maintained as context, such that each input builds on the previous and increases the ability for statistically understanding the intent as the conversation flows. So this will result in an interaction style that is much like talking to a human. That open-ended question is refined through follow-up questions and responses. Responders can either address the question or extend the topic as they provide more information. Again, all as a natural part of the interaction. They're conversational by nature. In terms of flexibility, the true flexibility comes from the adaptability of this technology. It is able to understand conversation turns. And if I respond with something that is additional information that hadn't been asked for, it is able to incorporate that. The AI is able to ask me multiple questions in a single request, and I'm able to answer in a single input. Again, by leveraging the entire conversation as it evaluates every input, seemingly vague responses are understood in the context of the entire conversation. Again, much like I'm talking to a human.
Okay. So that's all helpful. Break down how this then creates the opportunity for personalization. And I think the last two is also very intriguing and important, most likely to the audience, which is what is the maintenance and then what are the security implications, right? So, but starting with personalization, where does that come into play?
Yeah, all very important. So let's consider the common IVR use case that we've talked about a couple times with what is my account balance? Well, if you call into a bank where you have multiple accounts and you're just looking to transfer money, say, from a cash account to a credit account to cover your charges you just recently made, well, what is my account balance is a simple question, but by nature, in isolation, it's unclear. Both accounts are relevant from this interaction. So to achieve your goal, you need to interact in dialogue and a conversation that builds to ensure you're requesting specifically the amounts you both need in one account and have available in the other. And it is through dialogue that I'm going to gain the confidence in the system that it is understanding me and is applying that money the right way. So, but none of that is possible without access to my data. And so for truly personalized service, an agent has to do more than just carry the conversation. The true value is given to them in the intelligence that you provide it to achieve the user's goals. Now, it's not just account records. We could build in access so the conversation can leverage individual knowledge articles or service catalogs, ticketing systems, subscription records, on and on. The value is in the intelligence you give it. So, as I said a moment ago, traditional IVRs are great at low-hanging fruit that they have been programmed to respond to, like checking a specific, account balance or call routing, and that is true. They can retrieve data and play it back. But when you combine the power of a conversational dialogue from voice AI with that intelligence, with integrations, the potential for self-service actually has expanded beyond what is traditionally low-hanging fruit. The voice AI can actually guide that conversation, again, like I'm talking to a human, and access the required data. It will understand your situation and identify the correct knowledge article and provide the responses, provide the content in a human understandable language. Or it will interact with you to get as much information as required to create a detailed trouble ticket and log it. Guide the conversation to explore options around choosing a date and time for an appointment, etc. So that is the value of personalization. Is it just expands the ability for what you can achieve, both from a self-service perspective as well as an intake perspective.
And regarding maintenance and compliance, walk us through those last.
So the conversational NLU systems I spoke of earlier, they have everyone who's worked with them understands that they are pretty labor intensive to build and maintain. You have to really program the intents that you want to be able to handle, all of the word combinations to identify those intents, and then what actions you would take, the responses to give. And as your business evolves, you need to keep on top of that. So they're expensive to build and costly to maintain. With voice AI, we're leveraging prompt engineering to construct a detailed prompt to a Gen AI. So with this and the integrations that will give it the data it needs, the Gen AI is going to steer that conversation. I don't have to program it. It's going to steer the conversation to provide the services it's been told to. And likewise, changes are straightforward. If you build it just like any system, if you build in the metrics and ability to monitor how well the system is responding to user interactions and providing a service that's being asked to, then tuning becomes usually just a matter of updating your prompt, providing some clarifying details on how to interact or where to get the additional data. So both from a build as well as an ongoing maintenance perspective, it is much more cost effective and you can quickly scale with your business with a Gen AI based solution. From security and compliance perspective, when people hear Gen AI, they quite often immediately jump to the idea of hallucinations. In other words, the AI providing not suitable or content or stuff that's not approved by the enterprise. Again, since we're using prompt engineering to provide very specific detailed prompts to the Gen AI, we've incorporated the idea of guardrails to lock them down from these concerns. So we provide things that the AI should never do and the things the AI should always do. And these are presented into the prompt as non-negotiable. So that way you can really be very specific. So your voice AI will only provide the services being told it can provide, only use the data and content it can use, and never do things like go outside of those bounds to pull other data.
Okay, so we've covered challenges and hopefully where voice AI can help alleviate some of them. We've defined what voice AI is and sort of what are sort of the pillars that you would consider in its makeup. So let's relate this back to ServiceNow, right? Where do voice AI and ServiceNow come together to sort of enable those human-like experiences? And we'll use that as an excuse to then leap into the demonstration with Geraldine.
Yeah, excellent. And this is hopefully will help clarify, the overall end-to-end use case and how AI applies across the service spectrum. The voice AI systems you're about to see, think of them as initiating a service process. So using conversational dialogue and intelligence from its integrations, it's going to take in a service request, and ideally self-service will be possible. But for the most complex use cases, they're usually not resolved in one step. If I'm ordering new equipment or new software from my business, I need to provide details, information about why I need it, what I need, and a conversational dialogue will collect all of that and be very powerful as input to the rest of the workflow. So the remaining workflow around gain management approval, budgetary approval, order management, shipping, etc., that the voice AI working hand in hand with, say, a Now Assist orchestrated agentic AI solution to manage those additional steps, really is going to provide automation and AI to every step along the service journey, and to the right level, whether, and through automation, human assistance, and what have you.
Excellent. Well, I mean, that's a perfect segue into what most likely the majority of our audience is most interested in seeing, which is voice AI in action. So I think this is a perfect segue to bring in Geraldine. Geraldine, I think you're having some internet issues, right? So there's always something. You're good to go. Exactly. Right. Perfect example of just everyday life. Over to you. I'll stop sharing here so that you can go ahead and share your screen and take it away.
All right, thank you guys. Right as Todd was mentioning the Wi-Fi connectivity issues, mine completely went out. So fingers crossed that we are smooth sailing for the end of it. All right, so hi everyone. My name is Geraldine Morones. I am a solutions engineer here at 3CLogic. Prior to 3C, I was a CRM specialized solution consultant at ServiceNow, which just means that I was a product expert when it came to anything that fell under that CRM umbrella. So if you've requested an FSO or maybe a CSM demo at some point in the past, chances are you may have seen me before. So today I am very excited to showcase 3CLogic's Voice AI Hub, which we first unveiled actually at ServiceNow's Knowledge 25 conference in Las Vegas a few weeks ago. We had such great feedback that we are doing another demonstration for you guys today. So we appreciate you all being here. Let's go ahead and get started. So as you can see, this is the 3CLogic Voice AI Hub. And just like our 3CLogic Admin Center, it is still fully inside and baked into ServiceNow. So you don't have to download a separate application or a desktop app or anything whatsoever to do the work that you need to do. Let's take a look at this through the POV of a call center administrator. But actually, I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we talk about all of this, briefly, I think it seems as though we've had a big boom in AI since 2022 when, OpenAI's ChatGPT triggered some sort of massive wave of interest. And we haven't really been able to hide from the words artificial intelligence ever since. That's what it seems like. However, as a matter of fact, I have been using Siri to tell me how the weather is or send a text to my mom since high school. So while it may seem like this big boom and resurgence of AI, it's been around and I don't think it's going anywhere anytime soon. Okay. So once again, we are taking a look at this through the point of view or through the lens of a call center administrator. This AI hub will be the area where you will be able to not only build out your AI agents, but also test them out as well. So I've logged in for the day. We have a simple user-friendly interface here with a quick little dashboard, right? I have my total number of agents, the amount of threads during the last week. So every single time that you use the playground where you're testing out your AI agents, it'll create a thread. So that's what we have here. The most recent 10 and even who has been the most active in the last week. Let's take a look at this first widget really quickly, right? We have a total of 17 agents. Now, hypothetically, could you have one agent do everything that it needs to do across your entire enterprise? Yes. But as Todd was mentioning a little bit earlier, when it comes to hallucinations and just like human people, when we have too much information, right? That's where we get a little bit complicated. So the idea that we're trying to instill here is with the idea of an army or a swarm of agents where we have specific tasks or categories that your agents can focus on. All right. In this left-hand panel here, the second tab over is for AI agents. So here's the 17 that I was talking about. We will be utilizing, or I will be showcasing 2 today. The first one will be Printer Pete, and the next one will be helping me request a new iPhone. So let's start in and look at Printer Pete. So I'll be going through the first 4 tabs today. So let's take a look at the general tab to start off with. I was able to give my AI agent a title, such as he's a device support agent specifically for printers. I gave him a name, Pete. I also was able to give him a job description. So I let him know that he is a hardware support agent for a large retailer, that the employees are going to call him when they're having any issues with their in-store equipment, and that his job is to provide them with the steps to get their equipment working again. How is he going to do this? With what Todd was mentioning earlier, is with all done with prompt engineering. I told him, you have to do this by consulting knowledge articles. This is only one step of the equation. I might as well tell him to clean my car. When it comes to AI, they're very intent-based. They're going to understand what you're trying to say, but unless you give it the ability to do so, it won't be able to do that, which is where the second tab comes in, where I was able to not only point him to the knowledge article or the knowledge base to take a look at those printer issues, but also create a ServiceNow incident on my behalf. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm talking about first before we get into how it's being made. The idea that we really want to preface here is, for example, a real life example, prior to 3C and ServiceNow, I was actually an IT specialist / technician. When it came to, I was deployed on site. So I worked for corporate Domino's. I used to go on site to these different Domino's locations to help with any issues the employees may be having. So that was POS issues, maybe the receipt printer wasn't working, their router, modem, something was wrong, and I would have to go in person. The amount of times that I was deployed on site only to just have to either restart the computer or make sure the connections were good. I used to drive 30 minutes up to an hour based on my location to get this all resolved. So what we're trying to do here is really automate that process from start to finish. Ideally, right, your employees or your customers can go into the front-facing portal of your ServiceNow instance and do the troubleshooting themselves, right? We provide them with all the steps and guides they need to be able to self-serve. Now, do they all the time? Not really. People like to call in and just complain that something's not working as it should. So here is the actual knowledge article that I have pointed Pete to. It's important to note that we can point him to a plethora of different knowledge articles and knowledge base, even inside of ServiceNow. I'll show you guys a little bit later on that we can even point him or her, whoever that AI agent is, anywhere inside the ServiceNow instance. But for this specific use case, I have him pointed towards this knowledge article. All right, let's go ahead and give him a go. So again, keep in mind that the idea of this is that after a couple troubleshooting steps that we're going to resolve the issue. In this case, I'm going to walk him through all the way down, and we're going to see how we need to go ahead and create an order to send off a new printer for the store ID. All right. Hello.
Hello, I'm Pete, your device support specialist. How can I help you today?
Hey, Pete, I'm the first one here, and I can't seem to get the printer to print my job.
I can help with that. Could you please provide me with your store ID and employee number?
Yeah, my employee number is 5678.
Thank you. Now, could you please provide your store ID?
Sorry, the store ID was 1111.
Let's start troubleshooting the printer issue. First, please check for any error messages or flashing lights on the printer. Let me know what you find.
No error messages or flashing lights.
Great. Now please make sure the printer is powered on and online, not in sleep or offline mode. Can you confirm that?
Confirmed.
Awesome. Next, let's verify that the correct printer is selected as the default in your computer's print settings. Can you check that for me?
How can I check if that printer is in the right setting? I have a MacBook Pro.
On your MacBook Pro, follow these steps. 1. Click on the Apple menu in the top left corner. 2. Select System Preferences. 3. Click on Printers and Scanners. 4. In the list of printers, make sure your printer is selected as the default. Let me know what you find.
Okay, we're all good, but I still can't print anything.
Thanks for checking that. Now let's try restarting the printer. After it restarts, please attempt to print again and let me know if it works.
No, nothing is working.
All right, let's cancel all pending print jobs and then try sending your document to print again. Can you do that and let me know if it helps?
No, it didn't help at all.
It seems like the printer is still not working after all those steps. I will create an incident for you to get this resolved quickly. Your incident number is INC00111014. This will be marked as urgent, and someone will follow up with you shortly. Thank you for your patience.
Okay, so there are a couple of things that I want to point out here. As you can see, it was able to crawl the ServiceNow knowledge base and the article specific to printers and be able to kind of walk us through all of these troubleshooting steps. Moreover, what it was able to do is, as you can see here, I said, could you provide me with the store ID and employee number? I only provided my employee number, and it was able to prompt me again for that store ID. So all this is being done within those guardrails. Let me go ahead and showcase where that is happening. All right, printer Pete, there we are. And if we scroll down here it is. So ask for a store ID and employee number before providing any assistance. It's important that we're able to think ahead and what information that we're going to need in order to do the work from start to finish inside of the ServiceNow instance, right? So in addition to that, I was able to give him a greeting message, an ending message, and once again, with those guardrails. I had a lot of jobs in my past life. I was also a receptionist in college while I was graduating. And if I was having a bad day, it was reflected in my tone. So another really great feature when it comes to these AI agents is that AI does not vary in tone or performance or mood. So it's going to ensure that you have a consistent service level of service across all of your interactions.
And
Okay,
Geraldine,
yeah.
can I chime in there real quick?
Of course.
Yeah, that's a good point. So your AI agent here, it's going to maintain an even tone and personality. And you could easily have in your job description, and two things, you could have actually said after 3 steps, if it's, you don't want it to become an onerous process, perhaps you could then escort or, create an incident and cut off that triage, those triage steps. It's completely powerful to tailor that experience, as well as if you detect aggressive language, frustrated tone, curse words, etc., you could also act on those just by adding those details into your prompt and perhaps get them to a human more quickly.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. So again, moving on to the abilities, let's take a look at that ServiceNow instance that was created inside of our ServiceNow instance. We go ahead and pull that up. All right, and here it is. So now we are inside the ServiceNow instance in the SOW, so the Service Operations Workspace for ITSM. If I go ahead and open up this incident, this is the one that was created by Pete. So I have a printer not printing at store ID 1111. Sorry, my Wi-Fi is a little bit slow, but there it is. As you can see here, we have a short description, urgent, printer not printing at store ID 1111, and a much longer description, such as not printing despite troubleshooting steps, including for error messages, ensuring the power is online or offline, verifying. So it's going down the list of the things that we've already attempted. So if hypothetically this were to be pushed off to a human agent, right, I wouldn't have to waste my time with going through this low-hanging fruit. But what we can also do, and Todd, feel free to chime in here, is put this session or put this interaction, push that through to an AI help desk assistant as well.
Yeah, that's exactly right. This is a conceptual owner here, Alex, that we've assigned this to. Alex, in the end-to-end agentic AI perspective, would be an orchestrator agent within ServiceNow to orchestrate all those added steps I talked about with regards to gaining the necessary approvals, executing ordering processes and shipping, etc. So, this represents the start of a workflow that is also AI based to conduct and automate the rest to the extent possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Todd. All right. So going back in here, I was able to declare these fields, right? So I said for a short description, I want 3 to 7 words describing the incident. And for a longer description, I want to know something between 3 to 4 sentences. You can specify what we need to see. So here is my 3 to 7 word description and my longer description between 3 to 4 sentences. It's important to note that we can gather the knowledge base article. So we're gathering information from ServiceNow, but we can also push information into ServiceNow. So all I had to do here, I don't want to oversimplify it, right? But what we're able to do here is post into this specific ServiceNow instance into the incident table of this specific instance. Okay. The next two tabs that we
it should just be noted, sorry, I think it's probably implied, but all of that is generated content from that conversation, right? That's the power of the Gen AI solution as well, is evaluating that conversation to generate specific content that will then enable the workflow.
Yep. So the next 2 tabs that I have here are my personally favorite ones to showcase, is with personality and voice. So this is a really fun one to mess around with, right? We can, again, tailoring that experience for your customers. I can make Printer Pete very slang heavy, very friendly, or make him very formal in the explanations that we have. I can also make him very funny or not very funny. How detailed do we want him to be in explaining these troubleshooting steps? The empathy one is my favorite one to mess with, because if I put him at deeply understanding, he acts like your printer is the only one in the world that exists. So again, that's why we provide this playground for you to try this out before deploying your AI agents for consumption for your customers or your employees or whoever your end users are, is you can really play around with that experience and highly customize and configure it for your enterprise. So here are the voices that I used. I currently utilize Mark for Pete. Not confusing at all, right? But these are just a few that we have today. We're going to add a ton more. So if you prefer a male voice over a female voice, or if you prefer a different cadence or at which they speak, all that is, again, completely configurable from inside your Voice AI Hub. Okay. So the next use case that I'm going to touch base on is with another AI agent, and her name is Marcy. So in this scenario, what's happening is I'm going to be an employee calling in and letting her know that I need a new phone. So I have a work phone, something's going to happen with it, and I need to get that fixed. So here's my employee mobile device asset manager. Let's go ahead and try her out. What I wanted to highlight before I start is we can also get information, pull information from ServiceNow. So I will purposely give her the wrong information. I'm going to say my employee ID, and she's going to say, actually, try again. That's not it. So we can search. What I want to preface with that is that we can search a ServiceNow user table, an incident table, and search for those fields inside of ServiceNow. So we can do that verification process. Let me go ahead and start that. Hello.
Hello, I'm Marcy, your AI mobile device support specialist. How can I help you today?
Hey, Marcy, I did not check my pants before running the load for the washing machine, and I need a new phone.
I can help you with your phone issue. Could you please provide me with your employee ID so I can check your device eligibility?
Yeah, my employee ID is 1111.
It seems that the employee ID you provided is not valid. Please check your ID and provide a correct one so I can assist you further.
Sorry, it's actually 111.
Thank you for the correction. How old is your phone?
Probably about 3 years.
Great. Since your phone is eligible for a replacement, let's get started. First, do you have a preferred phone brand between the Apple iPhone and the Samsung Android?
Definitely an iPhone, please.
Here are the available iPhone models. 1. iPhone 16e. Available colors, white, black. iPhone 15 Pro. Available colors, natural, blue, black, white 3. iPhone 14 Pro Max. Available colors, blue, black. Which model and color would you like to choose?
Can I do the iPhone 15 Pro in natural?
I've created a ServiceNow item request for the iPhone 15 Pro in natural color. Your request number is RITM01018. Your phone will be delivered to your address on file and will require a signature upon delivery. If you have any other questions or need further assistance, feel free to ask.
Okay. So here, again, a couple of things that I wanted to highlight. You noticed that she was able to correct me and ask for the correct employee ID. And what we were also able to do is check my eligibility for having that phone or having the ability to get a new phone. And moreover, we were able to ask for multiple questions at once, right? So which model and color would you like to choose? With our natural language understanding, or with how we're doing IVR today, it's very hard to provide long-winded answers. It's more like yes, no, or it's much more standardized in the way that we're able to speak. With AI, we have the ability to have these conversations. I mean, I told it about my washing machine issue, right? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at what is happening in the back end here. Okay, so inside of ServiceNow, I created this, approved devices for employees. And here's where she got that information. So as you can see here, I have iPads in here. I also have the Apple Watch and the Apple Pencil. But because I specifically requested for a mobile device, she only pulled up the reference for the iPhone 15 Pro, the iPhone 16, and the iPhone 14, if you guys remember. I can also click into this a little bit further and go into this these texts or these choices that I was provided. She asked me if I wanted natural, black, blue, or white. And what we can also do is look at this actually inside of the request. So if I pull up this reference number, the Apple 15 Pro. Make sure we open that up. And we're getting that information directly from, default view. I should have had this preloaded. Sorry, guys. But we have that information right here. Apple iPhone 15 Pro in the natural color. So all that is coming through to ServiceNow. The last thing I wanted to focus on is what this can look like inside of the ServiceNow workspace. So we have, which one's the one that I just did? I believe it is this one. Give me one quick second while I make sure that I have the right one to open up. Okay, give me one quick second. All right. Well, I was not able to find you guys the printer. I'm sorry, the one that we just did, but I did pull up an old one, which is the one we did just now when it came to the printer. So I wanted to show you guys the iPhone to reference that iPhone requested item use case. But here's what it would look like if that call were to come through to a human agent. So if, for example, I requested to be transferred over, we would have that information come through.
Yeah, thanks, Geraldine. I do understand we have several other demos going on right now, so you were looking for the specific interaction.
Yeah, thanks, Doc.
All here.
Yeah, that's what it would look like. Again, we have that transcription come through. So now me as the human agent, I don't have to ask what's been going on. I can see the exact steps that we have gone through to get to where we are right now. So with that, that is the end of my demonstration. So I am going to come off and stop sharing my screen. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Geraldine. We actually had a couple questions come in, and I think this is as good a time as any to tackle while we close out for today's session. One of which was, how would Voice AI Hub, and I'll direct this question to you, Todd, function in other languages?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so the voices that Geraldine showed that you can choose from, we have documentation that also documents what languages down to the dialect level they are enabled to both speak in, communicate in, and so with that knowledge, we would find the right voice to fit the language and dialect, as well as just in our prompting, say, if you detect German, you will converse in German, or very specifically tell it that you are able to converse in German at this dialect level. So through matching up, make sure that you can actually speak that language with your the voice you've chosen. It then becomes just a matter of updating your prompt.
Correct. And I think it's important to preface that you can write these prompts and so forth in, for example, English, but you can then instruct that the agent is going to be themselves multilingual. So you don't have to write or create a Spanish agent, a French agent, a German agent, and so forth. One agent can by default service multiple languages as long as they're versed in those languages. And they are all, for the most part, multilingual. The language or list of languages available is quite substantial. So we've covered a lot, thanks to Geraldine's live demonstration. Todd, you in the beginning educating on what is Voice AI, where does it fit. In the interest of time, let's try and close out a few things and hit on some takeaways. So Todd, I'll let you do so.
Yep, thank you. So always on service, like traditional IVRs, they're available 24/7. And recall, we've expanded the quote unquote low-hanging fruit that can be addressed. As we saw with Voice AI, complex use cases possible. We broadened the ability for self-service by being able to dialogue, to understand, and then provide that response that will assist the user, as well as provide expert intake to collect the details to submit a ServiceNow case that has the details required such that case can then be processed. To kick off the required workflow, which when orchestrated with Now Assist, Agentic AI, those workflows can also be processed 24/7. So with regards to weaving into existing workflows, that workflow I just required, it doesn't need to be agentic. It could be fully human-based or a hybrid. However it is constructed, a conversational, easy-to-use intake that makes callers comfortable that they have provided all the detailed information about the situation and their need, the remaining workflow, whatever it may be, is going to be enabled with that complete information. And so when you automate services and enable self-service, you have intrinsically reduced the cost of those services. This will free up agent time so they can focus on more complex needs. The time spent that Geraldine used to spend driving to sites just to reseat a cable now can be used more practically. With AI really across the service spectrum, your business will be able to scale as the demand grows, and it won't necessarily require adding labor. Just the AI will become more sophisticated as you need it to. And this, really fits into your AI strategy as it evolves with your business. Wherever you are in your AI journey, whether fully human-run workflows, agentic, hybrid, as we said, voice AI on the front end of the engagement will benefit any organization. And due to that lower effort to build and maintain and grow, they will be able to evolve as your organization evolves. Yeah.
So I want to thank Todd, Geraldine, for joining us today, and hopefully this was educational for everyone who had the opportunity to attend. And of course, for those of you who missed some of what we might have covered, we will be sending the recorded version of today's webinar for your consumption and future reference. For those of you who aren't familiar with 3CLogic, just a quick little refresh. We are a voice AI and contact center platform. We are the only ServiceNow advanced platform offering within our space, specializing in not only just voice AI, but also live agent contact center use cases, everything from computer telephony integration to real-time transcription to SMS capabilities and so forth, all meant to be complementary to the ServiceNow platform. It's Now Assist capabilities all the way through to analytics, and we've done so for ITSM, for CRM and customer workflows, as well as HR service delivery and the like. I do know, since we have a minute left here, that was one additional question before we close out that was asking about some of the authentication capabilities. So I'll try and paraphrase this real quick, which is, when you authenticate an individual, how is that PII protected, or what might be some of the authentication options? If I'm not mistaken, Todd, part of it is going to be contingent on how you organize things. What are some of the verification protocols that you had? If you have an employee ID, is there also a unique identifier for that employee? And then the other thing to mention here, if we didn't cover it, is this is also leveraging, in this example, Azure OpenAI. And there is also the option, which you may have seen in the demonstration, for redaction. Todd, I don't know if there's anything you would quickly add to that question.
Yeah, both points are exactly right. With regards to the security of the enterprise-grade OpenAI instance within Azure, it protects your conversational data, doesn't share it back out to the broader ChatGPT for training those models. So your customer data is protected in that regard. With regards to redaction, we are running a 3-layer architecture where we have speech-to-text, AI, and text-to-speech, and the PII will be redacted in real time. As the, you can't control what the human speaks. In fact, you actually will ask for PII, but it will be redacted by the AI at each of those layers too, such that it's not logged in your transcripts, as well as anything else that may be exposed to humans working the case.
And last point is, while we leverage Azure OpenAI for today's conversation and example, should stress that voice AI is LLM agnostic. So that if there are other large language models, perhaps proprietary ones that you have yourselves, depending on your organization, those can be leveraged. It is not limited to Azure OpenAI as the sole option. Again, I want to thank everyone for taking the time to join us today. If you have additional questions and want to explore how what we've covered today may be relevant to your operations, we certainly welcome the opportunity to have a conversation with you, and you can do so by reaching out to us at ServiceNow@3CLogic.com. You can also shoot us an email at info@3CLogic.com. Again, thank you, Todd. Thank you, Geraldine, for joining us. For the rest of you, please stay tuned. We will be having additional educational sessions very similar to this one throughout the summer, and we certainly welcome the opportunity to have you participate in those as they come to fruition as well. With that, thanks again, and I want to wish everyone a very, very happy day. And we look forward to talking to you guys all very soon in the future. Thanks.